Do you know the difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur? And more importantly, did you know understanding the distinction between the two has a direct impact on how you increase or impact or decrease even your money flow? That's what today's video is all about. Hey, it's Wei from the Six Figure Academy, where we specialize in helping entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs just like you eliminate anxiety, stress, and worry around money by re-engineering those bad money stories so that you can increase your money flow, optimize your mindset, and more importantly, create life mastery. So if this is your first time joining us, welcome. My name is Wei, CEO and co-founder of the Six Figure Academy. If it's something that you enjoy and like, make sure you subscribe and like and hit the notification bell so that you can always get notified when we put out great new content that is designed to help you improve your financial circumstance, money flow, and create life mastery. Let's talk about today's topic, which is understanding the difference between entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. And again, like I was saying, knowing that distinction will actually have an impact on your money flow. Now the question is, Wei, how would understanding just the distinction between entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship impact my money flow? Well, understanding that difference will put you in a particular mindset depending on your circumstance. Because if you are an intrapreneur trying to be an entrepreneur, or if you're an entrepreneur having an intrapreneurship mindset, you will literally put a chokehold on your money flow, or you will put a hard stop, or maybe just slow down the money flow so that it's not optimized in a way that works best for you. And so it's really important, as I thought about how do I best explain this, and it made me think about my life when I was waffling between entrepreneurship and working in the corporate world. So if you haven't figured out already, an intrapreneur is basically an entrepreneur working in a corporate environment. Why is that important to understand? Because when you're working in a corporate environment, you may or may not necessarily own that corporation. In fact, intrapreneurs do not own the company. They are literally entrepreneurs working in a corporate environment. Now, this is a very important thing to understand because when I was waffling between entrepreneurship and working in a corporate environment, constantly reminding myself that I really wasn't cut out to be working in the corporate world, it was a challenging thing because every time I went into corporate world, it wasn't like I wasn't doing poorly. It wasn't like I was doing badly working in the corporate world. I was doing well. Every time I worked in a corporate environment, I went up the ranks really quickly and I got to a certain point. But of course, an entrepreneur, if you are an entrepreneur, you would understand this, is that I got to a point where I would kind of like butt heads with leadership, and then I would get bored or something and then go off and do my own thing again. And finally, when I found the path, which is the path I'm doing right now, and say, this is what I want to do, this is my purpose, entrepreneurship was just a better fit for me. So let me start off first by saying that there's nothing wrong with entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. One is not better than the other. The importance is to understand the distinction so that you can make sure that you are approaching your journey, your career, and your work in the right way that can optimize your money flow, minimize the anxiety, stress, and worries around money, and so that you can make sure that you be in a good financial place. So what happened was, what I found when I was observing myself, understanding what was the difference between me as an entrepreneur and me as an intrapreneur. Let's first define them in terms of their individual terms. Entrepreneurs, okay? Entrepreneurs basically solve problems for the world, for their audience, and get paid to do so, okay? Entrepreneurs are problem solvers of the world that get compensated monetarily for solving those problems. Intrapreneurs do essentially the same thing, only there's a couple more layers. Intrapreneurs not only help the company that they're working within, helps them solve the problems for their audience. True intrapreneurs that can maximize their money flow, their cash flow, and their success as an intrapreneur also solve the problems within the context of the organization. See, when I was working in the corporate world and how I was able to advance my career very quickly up the ranks, every single corporation that I actually worked in, was because I approached my position in twofold. First, I approached it as if I was the owner of the company. If I was the owner of the company hiring me for this particular role, how would I like myself to be? How would I conduct myself in that environment? How would I like myself to behave or produce in my own company if I was to hire myself? An entrepreneur basically approaches their role in the company as if it was their own company, whether or not they even own it. There is a vested interest in their own personal success, regardless of what they're being paid or regardless of what compensation. That is a true entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone that works in a corporate environment with an entrepreneur mindset. An entrepreneur is an entrepreneur that happens to be working in a corporate environment. What that then does, it creates a sense of commitment to success regardless of the environment or the comp plan or whatever the case may be, and that it affords the entrepreneur an opportunity to move up the ranks really quickly. Why is this important? How are entrepreneurs able to do that and entrepreneurs not doing that? Well, here's the thing. Entrepreneurs are responsible for more than just going out and selling their product or service. Entrepreneurs also have to be responsible, or at least keep in mind, all other aspects of what it means to own a business, to run a business, the administration, the operation, the logistics, the accounting, you name it, it's all there. It's multiple hats across the board. The nice thing about an entrepreneur is that you can still have an entrepreneurial mindset, but you can be hyper focused on your role as that entrepreneur within that organization without having to worrying about overhead, without having to worry about hiring and firing and employees and all those different things and handling insurance and comp plans and all those different other things that an entrepreneur has to worry about. And that's why an entrepreneur can afford to not only think about solving problems for the audience of that organization, but also to solve the problems within the organization depending on your role as an entrepreneur within that organization. So it's important to understand that distinction, because then it gives you the ability to really set the mindset on how to maximize and optimize your productivity and your role within the organization. Entrepreneurs focus on solving the problems for their audience. Entrepreneurs do the same within the context of the corporation, but they also have an extra layer of solving problems within the organization to optimize their career path inside the organization. In both scenarios, the most successful entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs focus beyond just self. They focus beyond just what they're there to do. And to make sure that is the case, and this is where the role of bad money stories start to have an impact on the success journey of an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur. Because the focus to be successful in either forms is to think beyond self. Remember, when you're looking to solve the problems for your audience, looking to solve the problems within the organizations or the group that you're working within, it's not a me conversation, it's a we and them conversation. And those are the most successful entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. What that means is you need to get rid of the blocks that are having you focus on self. What happens is when money anxiety rears its ugly head in the form of stress, worry, and is being fueled by old stories that you grew up with, such as those bad money stories, it takes away the focus. In fact, it fogs the focus outside of self and puts you in absolute survival mode. An entrepreneur and an entrepreneur, regardless if they're in a corporation or in their own business, if you are burdened by bad money stories, if you are burdened by limiting beliefs around money, you cannot solve the problems effectively. You'll be constantly thinking about how to survive, when's my next paycheck, when's my next raise, and then what happens is then you shift away from entrepreneurship and become an employee. You shift away from entrepreneurship and being a slave to your own business, or being an employee in your own business, which then is a way to kind of shackle your ability to expand and grow in either context. So the key thing is to, first and foremost, make sure to get clear on which side you're on. Are you an entrepreneur or are you an intrapreneur? And then you want to shift your mindset for that approach to make sure that your money flow isn't impacted as you are solving the problems within an organization or for your audience. You want to make sure that your bad money stories aren't being triggered and get in the way, so that all you're thinking is yourself and how you need to make money for yourself. Because the key thing is, if you don't have any bad money stories in the way, or if you have no money anxiety in the way, what'll happen is that those definitions of entrepreneurship versus entrepreneurship start to really integrate in and kind of get deep into your unconscious understanding, so that you know how to maximize and optimize your career path in either direction, whether it be an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur? For those of you who understand, if you understand that the entrepreneurship or intrapreneur, I would love to hear your comments below on what your thoughts are about that. Of course, if you want to dive deeper on this concept, we do have communities that are free that you can join. If you do Facebook, then join me over in Facebook. We have a group called the Money Lab. It's free. You can join us there. But there's all these different ways. But love to hear your comments or your questions, or maybe if you don't agree or with how I define entrepreneurship versus intrapreneurship, give me some feedback on the comments below. Let's start a conversation, okay? So that's the difference between entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship based on not only my experience, but what I've been able to do over the last couple decades in helping both entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs not only succeed in their lifestyle, but increase their money flow and optimize their mindset in the context of those definitions. You'd be surprised how very few people realize that in order for them to be super successful working for somebody else, it's about embracing and having that entrepreneurship mindset within the context of a corporate environment, which then makes you an intrapreneur. So hopefully you found that helpful. If you found it helpful, then give me a like or give me a comment below. If you didn't find it helpful and you found it was kind of like I don't even know why you're still watching it, but if you do, if you are, put a thumbs down, okay? Either way, looking forward to sharing more concept and more ideas about how to increase your money flow, either as an entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, or just a human being in the next video.